What's up, guys? This is Dion Summers, and you're watching CCP Podcast. But look, y'all already know what time it is. It's summertime, and it's not changing anytime soon.
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome back to Beyond the Bell. I am Chris Page. I am being joined by John Cable. What is happening, brother? How are you doing today?
Oh, having a great morning so far. Been kind of busy running around doing some stuff, but we're here and we get to enjoy another conversation with talent from around the planet.
I never would have thought in a million years when we started this thing that we were going to be chit-chatting with I call them friends at this point because it's more than just sitting down and shooting the shit. Most of these guys I've chatted with through DMs for weeks, if not months, leading up to these shows, and today is no exception. We have stumbled down the rabbit hole of independent wrestling from here in the States to Barcelona, Spain, to Perth, Australia, Adelaide, Australia, Melbourne. We've hit every corner of the globe, and not too long ago, we stumbled across something out of Portugal that blew our minds. It was Wrestlefest. We had Nelson on last week. We're continuing the trend this week because we've got none other than Paulo, the knockout artist himself, Mr. Cruz. What's happening, dude? How are you?
Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, I'm good, guys. I'm really excited to do this. Thank you for having me and for having Nelson last week, for having watched us and our shows. I'm really excited to talk about it, and thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, no, it's all good. John, meet Paulo. Paulo, meet John.
Hey, John.
Hello, sir. And no, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk with you and get to know
Oh,
what's
you too,
going
man.
on in the market where you work, man. You know, part of the journey of us doing these Inside the Indies things is looking around the planet to find the next big spot. And we've found some incredible shows. You guys have been putting on some great product. We had a great time watching Wrestlefest 2. We are absolutely invested in what you guys have going on, and we love seeing the product you've got. You guys have been super interactive with us on Twitter and on all the socials, really. You guys have been as invested as we have been in marketing your brand and putting it out there and wanting to be involved, and we love that. It shows a dedication to what you guys are doing, not just to the fans and yourself, but to the company that you're promoting, and they want to build the industry where you are and not just try to get to the big show. And I, for one, am personally a fan of that mentality.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Times are really good right now. We're happy that you like the shows we're putting out. I think we're living like in a really good time for Portuguese wrestling. I think it may be even the best time we've ever had. And it's great that you stumbled upon us, and we've been talking for weeks to do this. I've been excited to do this. Can't wait to talk about it. I'm passionate about it. So I really can't wait to get into it, man.
I think
Man, it shows.
there was you guys. When I say you guys, Nelson and yourself, like I usually don't schedule so far out, but when I was talking a little bit off air, when we watched WrestleFest 2, which was completely stumbled across. God bless YouTube and its algorithms. Let me just tell you that. It popped up on my side of the equation because we watch a lot of international stuff, and I shot it over to John and said, "Hey man, check this out. It's Portuguese. I don't think we've been to Portugal yet." John said sold, and within an hour of even announcing the show, I think we touched on this a little bit last week, but it bears repeating. You guys showed up in our chat in
Yeah.
droves.
Yeah, it wasn't just like one or two of you. There was a bunch of you guys that came in and gave us the background of what was going on in the matches and what the characters were doing and what the stories were like. And that added a whole new dimension to us just watching the show. It was incredible.
Yeah, you know how
Context.
many times that we get these opportunities there? They're not a lot, man. Like people stumbling on our shit, like it was great. And we're excited to show you that and to be with you watching it and giving you the context. Like we get happy when that happens because it doesn't happen a lot even in Portuguese wrestling. Most people don't even know there's wrestling in Portugal. So
We
the fact that you stumbled upon it,
We do.
I had no idea.
oh, but now you do. Now you
It
do.
makes sense. It makes sense to think that everywhere there is wrestling, right? It just does.
Right.
Everywhere
Yeah.
has wrestling. In one form or another, it's all over the place. But as we've gone down this rabbit hole, like you said, of finding these international shows, we found that there are some like ready-made rosters out there that are already doing what the talent on the mainstream is pulling off here in America. You guys are doing it at like pub shows, and it's insane.
That's true. That's true. We got lucky. I don't know when was the last. No, I know. We literally just pub shows. We were doing it, but that WrestleFest that you watched was a really it was a really good production show. Like it looked like like a legit show. I mean, it was a legit show, but like
absolutely top to bottom, from the vignettes to the ring work to you guys really pulling your characters and having your gimmicks down, your outfits, the whole nine, from top to bottom. You guys were nailing every single thing. You were running on all cylinders, and you produced a hell of a show. We don't just jump on the bandwagon for a new thing. We find good things somewhere out there, and we ran into you guys, and it's absolutely a good thing. You guys are drilling it everything.
thank you, man. Thank you, man. Yeah. But this was great because this was like one of the first shows that even had commentary, I think, in Portugal, and it had that old production, like a team of editors doing the thing, and all of that production and the lights and everything. Like it's really a new thing. Like we didn't really have it, and there's been wrestling in Portugal for over 20 years now.
Well, that's indies building all of the stuff to get to that part of the show is part of building an indie, and you guys are getting there. You guys have got it together. But realistically, like you said, this has been the way wrestling is in Portugal for 20 years. What's the market look like there? Are there other companies besides you guys? How many major productions are there? What's the market look like?
Like it really in its infancy, even though there's been like 20 years. Like there's not a lot of promotions. There are like three, and from those three promotions, all the same wrestlers work for every promotion. So it's basically like just different places in Portugal, and there's not a lot of production. Like, and as I said, that show was the biggest production we've ever had, probably. And yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think so too. I think the team did an amazing job with everything, and the trajectory is just looking up from now. Of course, it's difficult because it's wrestling. So like growing this, it will not be easy, but the trajectory is really looking up. The things are looking good, and yeah, even the other promotions, we're moving to make better and better shows now, and to especially to connect all of us together so we can make something stronger. Because there's been really that tribalism up until like I can probably say until COVID. There's been that tribalism that is really common in wrestling, that people just don't like talking to each other or whatever for some weird reason. That's been taken care of, I think, in a way. And that's only brought good things for us, and things are looking up. Things are growing.
You know, Paige, we see this a lot when we're doing these interviews and these conversations where the international stage is getting kind of like the States, where they're building territories instead of individual promotions. And we've never seen it be a bad idea. We've always seen it just build the territory.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think where we're at with the state of professional wrestling, especially with the independent scene, we say it every week on the show. It is the territory system. Back when I was watching TV in the '80s, man, and into the late '80s, independent wrestling is thriving. So to hear that. Well, to hear that there's only just a handful of major promotions, or well, not say major promotion, but promotions in general in Portugal, is one thing. And knowing that all the talent are working together, like we see this happening in Georgia right now, and we see it happening down in Australia as well, where these guys are pulling together the resources and eliminating the bullshit. And by bullshit, I mean tribalism. And I am not. I don't jump on the tribalistic bandwagon. You like professional wrestling or you don't like professional wrestling. And if there's something about it that I don't like, then I just don't watch it. I don't. There's so much of it out there that it appeals to everybody in some form or fashion. You just have to find what that passion is for you and what that looks like for you as a fan. And when you find it, man, you hold on to it. John and I are both more into good wrestling and storytelling and the production value. Like all this is a big thing for us when we're sitting down and we're watching wrestling, and we don't critique it. You know, that's not our job. Because that's you do, John. Because you're a prick.
I'm a dick.
John's the critiquer on the channel, but I'm here to see what I see. If I see something that entices me to dig deeper and dive deeper, I do. And that's something that we came across with Wrestlefest too. It was literally a blind pool, and it led to us putting off watching Wrestlefest 1 because we would have already watched it, and to work with you guys to try and do some stuff to get Portugal wrestling on the map, because you guys are the ones down there tearing it up, and in a good way. We didn't see a bad match on the card for Wrestlefest 2, even though you beat my boy in the main event. I'm not going to hold it against you on this show.
Had to be done, John. Yeah, it had to be done, Chris.
Okay.
You know you had to be done. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Both guys.
It's okay. I appreciated it.
Good. Yeah, but it had to be done. Milan, great guy.
It took you. It was
Had a
that
tournament
was a
win.
good match. That was a really good match. It was one.
Thank you.
It took me by
Thank you.
surprise. I mean, the whole show did, to be perfectly fair. But that match was one that I was like, oh, I saw the dude come out, and I was like, oh, my people. I see my people. And then you beat him. I think I even said at the end of the match, I was like, man, fucking Cruz went over, and I ain't even mad about it. I ain't even mad that
Yeah.
my dude. I'm not even mad about it.
Yeah, you could be mad about it. I don't care. It's fine.
It was
I
solid.
want to win.
Great response. Perfect.
Let's let me
Yeah,
chat.
like, oh,
Let me chat a little bit.
sorry.
Let me chat a little bit about
Yeah.
you real quick, and then we'll get back into
Sure.
the Portugal scene. When you decide that, well, not necessarily decide, when you were growing up and you were watching wrestling over there in Portugal, who were some of the guys that you were watching on television, or maybe some of the inspirations that led you into professional wrestling in general?
Right.
Or
So
even
that's
what was the experience for the Portuguese like TV market?
Right.
What was wrestling for you growing up?
right. So well, I'm a little bit of a weird case, to be honest, because when I was growing up, I tried to watch wrestling. I'm 24 years old right now, and I knew about wrestling from ever since I was 5 years old, and we loved it. The thing is, in Portugal, it wasn't really like a very popular thing, and I didn't really have a cable TV. I just had like the four main channels, and they got the shows like from week to week. It wasn't synchronized with the States or whatever, and it was kind of a weird thing. I tried to watch wrestling, and I wanted to, but sometimes I just couldn't. And for a lot of my early life, it was like that. It was only when I was 13 that I really started watching more wrestling. The first WrestleMania I've ever watched was WrestleMania 30 with Daniel Bryan. That was my very first storyline watching. My very first stumble upon cable TV wrestling. It was with WWE Experience. I don't know if you heard about it. You probably did, right? And the very first storyline that I started watching was when Daniel Bryan was starting to beat John Cena. It was that was my first match ever that I watched.
At least you had a great story to jump in.
That was
that was
great. I know now that it was a great fucking story, and almost by accident, of course. But like the Daniel Bryan shit, like that was really the first thing that I watched about wrestling. Of course, I knew about Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and all those guys. I had played one of the demos of the games, like SmackDown vs. Raw. I had played it 2009, so I knew about them. Jeff Hardy, of course. I loved The Undertaker, and I watched them when I could, but it wasn't really until that storyline I really started watching it regularly. And it was really exciting because the storyline was great, and my boy won. So, like, at WrestleMania 30, so, like, I'm cool with that, and I loved wrestling already. A lot of my peers that's fallen out of wrestling because they could watch it, and they did when they were early on, but then when they figured out, well, it's fake and whatever, I don't like it anymore. That didn't happen to me. When I started watching in 2013, I already knew it was fake, and I just didn't care, right? Because it was great. It's awesome.
All about the show.
Right. And so I just kept on watching it, and I've always thought about wrestling in my life. And fortunately, I really didn't know how I was going to get into wrestling, because at the time I didn't know there was wrestling in Portugal, just as 90% of people don't, maybe even more than that. So I didn't know what I was going to do. So it wasn't until WWE came here in 2017 for a live show that I got a ticket to go to the live show. I worked for that ticket. I think I paid like for $100 for that ticket. It was a VIP ticket. Yeah, it was the first thing I bought on my own money. Yeah,
Go big or go
I
home,
wanted
brother.
I mean, yeah,
right, of course. I was
the stick, right?
Yeah, I was right up there. I took a photo with Rusev. I took a photo with Bobby Roode. I took a photo with AJ Styles. That was great too. And after the show, there was one of these pamphlets, one of these flyers that they were distributing, and it was for a company called Wrestling Portugal.
They got him the same.
Oh
way
shit!
They got me here.
Yeah. Oh shit! We got Wrestling
Same way I
Portugal.
got it
Let's go. Really? It was like that too.
Yeah, I went to a show. I went to an ECW show here, and out on my window when I got out was a flyer for a wrestling school, and I was within the week I signed a contract and dropped my money.
Hell yeah! It wasn't within a week for me because I was not from the city where we were, so I had to move cities to go watch the show. But as soon as I realized I was 17 years old, and I'm like, okay, there's wrestling here. I need to go to Lisbon. I was not in Lisbon at the time. I need to go study in Lisbon. I need to find a university there that I can get into and whatever. And I have to go to the wrestling. This was in November 2017. By May 2018, I had done my first practice lesson. And by October 2018, I started training regularly. So that's how I grew into wrestling.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the
So you
the-
pretty much.
what's the training look like down there compared to here in the States? If it wasn't predominant and it wasn't a bigger thing in Portugal, what did that class look like when you went in for your first set of training dates?
What do you mean, like in terms of people? Okay.
Yeah. How many people did you have there when you first started out?
Not a lot, John. Not a lot, Chris. Not a lot. Not a lot of people. So sorry about that again, but yeah, not a lot of people. Like probably around 10 people, maybe in that class. It is a weekly class.
That's not horrible.
I mean, sure, but it is a weekly class though. But it's now it's fine. Like now we are consistently having 10 people, 12 people, I think. But at the time, I didn't think it was a lot of people. And
Actually, I think that's a great size for an indie class. To be fair, like you get enough time to individually touch on each student, and then you still have time for working together. You've got 5 match pairs, 6 match pairs. I think that's a good number.
yeah, maybe you're right about that. Yeah,
I think
I think we were like.
Oh, I'm
Sorry.
I think
Yeah.
I had like 12 or 13 in my class in '99. if we're
Yeah, I think mine
telling
was
ages.
like I think mine in 2001 was maybe 8 or 10.
And of those
Hey,
12 or 13, only 3 were left standing when it was all said and done.
that's the trend, actually. Yeah.
Back in my day, and I feel like this is kind of a way that we can connect with your story and how you started is while Portugal, it wasn't such a big thing in Portugal. Going back to the late 90s here, you only had a handful of options as far as training schools were wherever you were locally. And depending on wherever you were and whatever state you're in, obviously dictated the kind of training that you got. And I grew up in Alabama, so listen, my training school was on the side of a fucking mountain. And
Oh shit.
like, it was wild, and just a completely different scene. So I can totally get it and see that perspective. And I like what John just said too, because there are classes that have 20 to 30 plus people in them now in certain locations. But do you really get that hands-on, one-on-one with your trainer kind of situation with that many people being crammed into one place? So less is more.
Not that it's impossible, but
It's not, but less is more, at least in my perspective, when it comes to something of that nature.
Yeah, and even especially like from what I've seen in wrestling, like I haven't started in wrestling, of course, in terms of sports. Like we can talk about this a little bit later now, but I started in kickboxing when I was 5 years old or 6 years old. I started in that, and for a long time, like I've seen what a good practice session looks like, and it's really different from wrestling. Like a good number for kickboxing class, like you can easily get 20 to 30 people in a room and do a nice lesson because everyone is like paired together. Like you can't really do that in wrestling because you're limited by the amount of rings that you have. So if you have like 15 or 16 people, or I mean 15 to 20 people, you already have to wait a lot because we only have one wrestling ring. So that's what you said is really true. Like 10 people, 12 people, like it's a really good number for a practice session. And that was how it was back in the day. The thing is, my first wrestling section, I didn't even have a ring in the room. So we for like my first 2 years practicing wrestling, we didn't train with the ring all that often because we had to rent a space. It wasn't ours,
Mhm.
and we had
But you
to
can
every
put a
time we
mat
wanted.
anywhere.
There you go. Yeah, and we did put mats.
Yeah.
That's what we used because we couldn't really put the ring together and leave it put together. You know, so we had to take it away. So we practiced with the ring like once a month. Considering we had like one session per week. That's the amount of training we had. And for all the other lessons, it was just training on the mats on the cushions that we had and just practicing it that way. Nowadays it's different. Nowadays we have two wrestling schools, just in Lisbon and another one down south in Algarve. It's a different region, and we are able to train with the wrestling ring every week, which is great, and it's really different. And it's I think it's
That's
catapulted us a
awesome.
little bit
Mhm.
to be a little bit better as best or the best we can, at least. But that's how I started in wrestling. My first practice match was in the mat.
What did you find like as you started your training, right? Before you even thought about having a match, what did you find to be the hardest thing for you to grasp? Was it the mat work? Was it the idea of hitting people? Was it the mic work? What was the hard thing for you to really get a hold of?
That the last thing you mentioned, like the mic work for me, like is the mic work and the selling point on wrestling and the theatrical stuff about wrestling. That's really the hardest part for me. It's always been like I've never really had a problem with the moves and doing the basic shit and doing the bumps and whatever body slams. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that quite easily. But the part on that promo part, that theatrical part about wrestling, that's really the point where I would say I struggle. But I've been struggling less and less as the time goes by. But I do have a lot of work to be to do, and you have to keep practicing here. And a really big difference that I saw from training here in Portugal is when I went to Ireland as well. Like you've heard of OTT, of course, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've been to a seminar there, and of course like they have people giving the coaches there have been to NXT, have been coaches in NXT UK and all of that, all those places. Like it was like night and day difference when I went there. Like I was really blown away by what they were doing and the way they taught us about selling and feeding and all of this in between shit and character work. That really opened my eyes to what we were doing as well in Portugal. Was
Did you get to
I don't
take
know.
that training back home and show other
Yeah,
people what was going on and did they receive that well?
I think so. Like we knew that these concepts were a thing, of course, but like it's just really the way that they were taught to us in OTT that was different from what we were doing in Portugal. Like as I said, we're really amateur, and when it comes to wrestling, like we don't have a lot of people that have had this kind of formation that they had in OTT and other schools. So it was great to come back here and try to kind of teach them. I don't feel comfortable enough saying that I am able to teach that shit because I'm not comfortable with it myself.
We're all still learning, brother, but we learn from each other, and that's the point.
That's true as well. But a really good thing was that like I'm new to wrestling. I'm kind of new. I've been training for 5 years. I've been doing shows for 2 years actually. Yeah, it was like 2 years that my 2 year anniversary of doing wrestling. So I feel kind of new and I don't feel capable of transmitting that information to my peers. But we've had the luxury of having someone that was there that's been doing this for 12 years, and actually this was last week we had this training, and he taught us and passed on to us this knowledge that he grabbed from OTT and that I remember listening to, but not being able to assimilate everything. And he passed it on to us, and I mean, that was a great thing that happened as well. So we're really happy that we're able to get these opportunities and try to be the best version of wrestling that we can here in Portugal by doing this kind of thing.
Well, let me say this: promo and character work, man, all that comes with time. Really, it does. It's one of those situations that as you grow more confident as a performer, it's just going to come more naturally. I think that I think where a lot of people kind of screw up a little bit is they try too hard if that makes sense. Like that's
Hmm.
one of the things that I look at when I'm watching indies. Right, if somebody's in the ring, I can always tell if someone is not being authentic or, like I said, trying too hard is where I'm going with it. So if just relax, have fun with it, and understand. And if you go into it with the understanding of at some point I'm gonna fuck this up. It's gonna happen.
Sure.
It's gonna
And
happen.
it has happened.
Botches,
It has
botches
Uh,
happened.
it's and B, it's just like a botch in the ring. If you make a mistake, what's your recovery ratio look like, and can you correct and get back on track? And if you can do that pretty quickly, then that's it's nothing that will hinder anybody. It's something that you'll be able to, obviously, as you get more comfortable and you get more deeper into it, man. It's just going to come like second nature. Um, it it makes me ask this because John, you just asked a second ago, like what was the hardest thing that he was to grasp? Was it this, that, or the other? And we got to promo. I figured that it would be a nice segue because I wouldn't see you having a whole lot of trouble with hitting somebody, considering the background
Oh,
as within kickboxing.
When
Go ahead, John.
we tend to figure out, like, a lot of guys that we've talked to, and I know in my experience it's the same way. A lot of times the road to the wrestling ring either comes from a combat sport or a theater program. And
mhm.
either you're into the show of it or you're into the fight of it, and you've got to find the transition in the middle. And that's a lot of times the hard part for one side versus the other. Because like we've talked to a couple guys who have theater backgrounds, and the promos were easy, but moving in the ring is a hard part for them, or hitting moves or doing the ring work is hard. And we've seen lots of fighters or bodybuilders that come in, and the physicality of it is not hard, but the theater work is hard. So that
Right.
it makes sense that those two roads, and there are plenty of other ways to get to wrestling than those, but those two main roads seem to be the biggest influx, and that seems to be a consensus among people that have traveled that path.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my path is definitely the second one. I started fighting. Uh, I liked fighting. I've done it until last year, I think, and then I stopped because I wanted to focus more on
Did
the
you
gym
have
and training. Sorry, yeah.
did you have a hard time transitioning from really trying to blow the guy's skull out with a punch to not doing that?
That's a question that I get asked a lot, and honestly, for me, it wasn't really all that difficult because I'm not a very aggressive person by nature. Even when kickboxing, and it has
Oh,
sometimes
you're a
hindered
teddy
me.
bear. Look
Kind
at
of,
you.
yeah, a little bit. I don't know. Look at me. A little bit of a teddy bear. No, yeah, for sure. That has been a hindrance for me in boxing as well. Like before I could even win my first match, I had to lose a lot and try to be more aggressive, and try to
Oh yeah, in
progressively.
MMA the whole job is to rip their face off.
Right, right,
Yeah,
and
from
and I'm
the
like,
bell, it's rip them apart, get the fuck out.
right, and that's really been my problem because I don't know. I don't know. I've just uh, I didn't really have that aggression, that instinct in me to be able to do that. But I wanted to fight it, and I did, and I ended up winning a bunch of fights, and I've been a national champion, so that was great.
Nice.
And yeah, and that really has been my transition interesting. So like, there is some times where I don't get aggressive in the ring, right? But there might be some times when I have a little bit of a trouble, maybe trying to control one punch or a kick, especially. Sometimes that happens. We have to learn from it, of course.
Keep that in mind,
But
guys. If you get booked in a match with him, one of those shots might be stiff. It's not a personal problem.
shit,
He's trying to contain himself.
no, come on, guys. No, don't do me like that. Don't do me like that. Come on. No, like, I think I do a pretty good job at it. I'm gonna transition from that because I think I'm burying myself a little bit here.
No,
But yeah,
you're great. It's fine, dude. You're fine.
it's definitely a learning curve for that. But I've been lucky because that transition from kickboxing and combat sports to wrestling, that's been really the birth of my character. That's where my character comes from. I'm the MMA guy in the Portuguese wrestling scene, and I
How
come
does
into the ring. Yeah.
how does that gimmick build for you? I mean, it seems like a natural transition from MMA
Yep.
fighter to being, the MMA gimmick. But how do you build that with the crowd? How do you make that connection? How do you get that to function for you?
A big thing about it was, I think there's two big things that got me that connection. The first one is my music, my interest music. Like it was like a really good fit for me. My music starts with whatever Portuguese thing, and it says knockout, and it says knockout a bunch, and people chant to it, so they like it and they understand where that comes from. And actually, my nickname comes from my music. I chose the music before I chose my nickname because I mean Paulo Cruz is kind of boring, of course, because it's just a name.
It's
And
not. It's a great stage name. It's awesome.
thank you. And they got the knockout in between, and people liked it from the get go, which was great. I got lucky on that. And then there's also like the way I think I present myself when it comes to the character. I got my martial artist or boxer robe. I got my MMA gloves, and I got my medals. People recognize me from my medals because that I've earned from kickboxing. And I go into the ring. I got all of these. I've used them to win matches as well. So like a little bit of a chicken, a little bit of a heel there.
Always nice to have a gimmick prop that's on your person, right?
Right, yeah. That works great. There was a match where I had to put one medal in each corner or whatever, and I had to kind of like take the medal from the corner, and the referee would take it away from me, and then I would get the other one or whatever. Something along these lines. Another audience connection that I did once was great. I had like a plant on the crowd. It was like my coach. He got the medals from me because they banned my medals from the match because I had used them on the match prior to that. And some shenanigans happened on the finish of the match, and it comes to me from the crowd. He gives me the medal. I hit my opponent with the medal, and I win that match. That was great too. So that connection, I think, really comes from that. And my character really worked well. Like people understood what I was doing there. I was basically the dickhead that thought, I don't need wrestling. I'm gonna come here. I've won, I guess, actual fights, and so I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna dominate this. And people understood it from the get go. So I was lucky on that.
The kayfabe breaking heat. I love that.
Shit, yeah, kind of.
Oh,
I never really
kayfabe?
said it.
What's kayfabe? That's been gone since 2000.
Sure.
This is one of those situations where the character transition is very simple and simplistic. I think it's wild that you've
Right.
only been in the ring for just a handful of years. You've been training for 5. You've been in the ring for 2. And you got the main event slot at Wrestlefest 2.
Well,
Yes.
not just got it, but worked the hell out of it and have put in the effort and definitely putting in the time and it shows. Like I said, like we talked about earlier, the production value on you guys is phenomenal. And to know, like he said, that you've only been actually wrestling for 2 and training for 5, and yet this is the product that you're getting, you are absolutely in a great place for a learning tree, and it shows.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been really lucky to be able to do this, and people that have pushed for me and my peers to be better than we were yesterday. So we really got lucky on that. Yeah, thank you.
When you came out of training and you got your first booking, what did that look like for you? And can you walk us through your first night in the ring? Everybody has a story, and I'll tell you mine, and John can tell you his, and
Sure.
you can tell us yours. Mine was I tripped on the steps coming up on my intro, and then stumbled into the ring through the ropes. I went ass over tea kettle in my
Oh shit.
my first match.
He did that on accident. I did that on purpose. It was
it was embarrassing, but once it happens, it's over with, and then you can only get better because it ain't gonna get any worse than that. So
Yeah.
when you got your first booking, man, did you? I mean, obviously, were the nerves there? What walk us through your first day and your first match?
Man, I already told you guys, like I'm a nervous guy. I get those butterflies every single time, and it hasn't been affecting me in a bad way. But when I got my first match, dude, I was fucking hyperventilating before I got into that ring, and this match was my very first match was not as the knockout gimmick. This was before the pandemic, so I started training, as I said, in 2018, and I was lucky enough to have a dark match with one of my peers in the last show we were going to do at the time. So this was not June 2019, I believe. So they were doing the last show of the season. They were not sure if they were going to get going with another season from September 2019 onwards. So they gave us that chance because we've been training and the results had been decent for the time that we have. So at this time we was like 9 months of training or 8 months of training. They got us this little dark match, little 5-minute match, and I'm happy to say it went well. Like the feedback was that it went maybe better than a lot of the people, a lot of people that had first matches. Like it was good. My teammate, I mean I call him a teammate, of course. It was my opponent. My opponent was great as well. And of course, it wasn't anywhere near that what we're doing right now. But I think for the time that we had, the experience was really good. And even though I was shaking with nerves at the time, I didn't have a gimmick. I didn't even edit anything. I think I fought with my trainer shorts and the way that I train. But if and all things considered, like the experience was really good. Like I've been lucky on that as well. Like I was really happy with what we did in our first match.
Well, you just mentioned something that we've talked to several different people all over the world about, and that was the pandemic. How did that affect
Right.
you guys? If the market was already limited at best when the pandemic hits, what are you guys thinking? Are you guys thinking are we ever gonna come back or what? How did that affect you, and how did that affect the scene in Portugal?
Yeah, that was a really tough time for us because, of course, everything had to shut down, including wrestling, and training of any sort shut down at the time. This was March 2020. As I said, like just to tie everything together, we had that match in June 2019. They were not going to do. They were not even going to continue with the academy for the rest of 2019. They were going to take a break. Fortunately, they didn't. They ended up restarting training in November, and we had a bunch of new guys, which it was great. Like we had a lot of new guys training there and a lot of talented people. Some of which you have seen on the Wrestlefest show. One of them was in the ladder match. Maybe you'll remember. Yeah, and we had those guys, and this was November 2019, and the pandemic, of course, hit in Portugal in March 2020, and from that point on, everything shut down. We didn't have training. And we were really wondering what was going to come of us because wrestling is non-profitable, of course, not in Portugal, and I'm not sure.
Most
Like,
indies.
right, most indies are not profitable, and mostly people just spend their time because they love doing this, and they were already burnt out a little bit. So I was really afraid that it wasn't going to continue. Fortunately, we got promo class training from a guy that has been to theater. We did throughout the pandemic. For the whole of 2020 and a little bit of 2021 until June 2021, we got these promo classes that they would give us assignments every week, and we would have to do a promo with a theme, or maybe like we had to only use one word. Maybe it have to be like 6 seconds long or whatever. So we had this promo class training, and then after that, we did like a make believe season. I think it was even 2 make believe seasons, which was like 1 week we had a show, we cut our promos, the booker would say how the match would go, and then he would do something else, and we would have the assignment for the next week. So that was really great, and that was cool. That was really cool.
They were video e-fetting for the whole pandemic.
I mean, kind of. I mean, and that was no simulation or whatever. It was just narrating what we were doing. But
Yeah, no, but it's the same concept. It's the same thing.
yeah.
You were writing a promo to get judged by your coach to tell who would win based on the promo. You were
Yep.
literally IRL e-fetting during the.
That-
I think that is the most intelligent use of downtime I've heard from anybody anywhere during the pandemic. We were doing promo work. We could do it all on the computer. We had assignments and we wrote promos for the whole year. That is
Yeah.
the most wise use of the downtime I think I've heard. Period.
This was a great use of the downtime, and it was really like encouraging because we were all new guys from. It was a batch of new talent came in, and we didn't really know our coaches, and we didn't really know if they were going to continue with us. So that was really a way of them to show that they believed in us and to continue training despite the conditions that we had. And we ended up having like a lot of good promo classes, and I think that also transitioned to the ring because we of course had to do a lot of character work for those promo classes, so we got comfortable doing that. And even though I'm not a promo king or whatever, like by any means, but that really, I think that really helped me as well. And then, but it was this thing of like the belief that they wanted to continue with the project and just do the thing because they believed it was going to be good one day. And we had that promo thing. We had like match analyses where they were show was like All Japan Pro Wrestling, some like old type wrestling, some new matches, some rumbles. We would analyze all that. during the pandemic, and then we got back to training maybe in 2020, like late 2021, maybe a little bit early 2022, and that
With
was
a
when.
massive head start in your character development.
Right, right. I mean, I don't know that I had figured out anything for my character, but for sure I had acquired some skills that I probably wouldn't have if I hadn't done if this hadn't happened. So it would that really felt like a boost there. Like for kind of there were some really good things, but I think we took care of that time of the pandemic. We took advantage of that to the best that we could do, right? And so we had the pandemic then was over, like not over, but it was really like controlled by mid 2021, and we started training again. And there was a period of time where we were training but not doing shows, and then come April 2022, April Fools, they announced a show, and I'm like, what? So we're doing this now? But it was April Fools, so we don't know if that's true. Turns out it was.
I was about to say, how do you think your fans reacted to an April Fool's joke?
Right, the exact same way. Like,
Wasn't one.
right, but they thought at first, of course, they thought it was an April Fool's joke, but turns out it wasn't, and they went nuts because there has been
great genius marketing stroke.
Right, right.
Because now you're gonna get people going to Google and like, are they actually doing this? Like that's gonna
Right.
drive foot traffic, right?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get to that because it drove a lot of traffic. That's the comparison I want to do. Yeah, because we had that April Fool's thing, and then they actually announced it, and they went nuts. They went ballistic, and they loved it. And there hadn't been any wrestling for like 2 years at the time in Portugal, and that made a huge difference. Like so you can get a little bit of an idea of how it was. Like a 70 people house was a good house before the pandemic. Our best show that we had in where I trained was like 156 people, which was the last show that we had done in 2019 because people knew it was the last show. On the same avenue, the same venue, we did the same show, and the place, and this was in the 15th of May 2022, the place was packed. That you could not fit any more people in there. I'm sure there was like 200 something people in there, which was a crazy difference from what we had before the pandemic. This for us was crazy. It was massive. And we had that show. I was lucky enough to be in the main event because the theme of the show was like, we had the veterans that had been there before the pandemic and doing shows, and we had those kids, including myself, that like a batch of new talent.
Show.
No, it was a main show. Like it was announced as the main show.
But, there are a lot of academies that will put the trainers and the stars from the main show in matches against their students to showcase the new guys coming out of the academy.
Right.
We've watched several of them, and we have never been disappointed in an academy show. They have been incredible. Right,
and that show was fortunately a big success. Like it was great. The matches were great. The characters were there. There were like people that went really well from the promo classes. They really took advantage of that to do their work on that show. I of course was a little bit better with the in-ring work. I didn't really talk, but we got that together. We didn't announce it as an academy show, as had been done before in Portugal. Like there was this thing called Dojo Wars that was explicitly told like this is a student show. Like they believed in us to do this show, so we had a full production. We had awesome vignettes and promo packages for our characters. Like it was really great. And we did it like it was a real show. I was lucky to be chosen to be in the main event to fight for the national championship. That was my first actual match as knockout. I think I think we're probably going to see it in the highlight show. And it was a big success. Like from then on, it was like there's really a before pandemic and an after pandemic. Like before the pandemic, as I said, 70 people, 80 people, 100 people is great. After the pandemic, if we have 120 people, like it's not really a good house. Like it's okay. Like the place is there, people are there, but a good house would be in there like 170, 180 people. In Wrestlefest, it'd be like 300 people. That's like the normal thing because it's a much higher production show. So it really like pivoted after the pandemic. Like things looked up and they have stayed up, fortunately, and they're still looking up now. So yeah, that's really been really great.
No,
I think
it
probably the key to that continued success is that you guys came back from pandemic ready to go, feet on the ground, and you ran with it. And you guys were producing great shows right off the bat, and that will grab a guy and make him buy another ticket next time.
For sure. Yeah.
that
Chris, you're
seemed
going to say something, I think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say that seems to be the general consensus coming out of the pandemic was boots on the ground and being ready is the difference maker versus maybe not being in shape or not taking the time when the world closed to hone in on the craft. That seems to be the general take. I know that Riot City and in Australia, the Australian product were doing the same thing. They were incorporating different kinds
UK
of
too.
UK. They were trying to incorporate different training styles into what they could do to get guys like you ready to go because the world's gonna open back up, and when it does, you've got an opportunity. And what we've seen in Portugal is that when the opportunity has presented itself, it's been knocked out of the park. Which, in your case, if you're coming straight out of the pandemic and you're rolling into the main event scene, you're not just going to be the main event scene in this one particular place. You're now the main event scene, period, for Portugal because of the handful of organizations that are running there.
Mhm.
I guess where I want to go with this is if this was the first chance that you came out as knockout. Was that something
Yeah.
that you were looking at while you were off and during the pandemic and working on promo stuff, et cetera? Where you were obviously thinking about character stuff. Is that where the transition for knockout comes in?
The term knockout didn't really come in like until a month before the show. Like I didn't know I was gonna be this. But when we were doing the promo classes, I feel like I took a little bit of what I am now, and I used it there. There's actually like a promo that I did in a promo class that I almost did word for word for a match that I had like last month, I think. So there was really this discovering process during the pandemic where I knew where I stood, and everyone tried to figure out what they were best at, and I feel like the thing has been cooking for a long time, but the knockout itself didn't come in until 1 month after the show, and for that month I was really lost on what I was going to do with myself because I didn't really know. Okay, so what am I gonna offer? I'm not all that charismatic. Like I'm not a great promo. Like I can handle myself a little bit, but there were really great guys doing promo stuff, like some hilarious shit, like and some really cool shit in those classes. So I didn't really know what I was going to do, but that was an interesting point because, of course, that's an easily understandable thing. Like this guy has been fighting, he has been winning in fighting, and he just thinks he can come in wrestling and win because it's fate. I never really explicitly said that, but of course, wrestling fans know what they're looking at, right? And we got the chance to do a really understandable character that people could connect with, either love him, probably not because he's a dickhead, or hate him, probably true, because I dress like a dickhead. I have
Which
my
sells
fucking
seats.
yeah, right, right, and he did. And we had a babyface champion at the time, so of course that matched as well. So this knockout thing really got put together like a month before the show where I was a little bit lost. But of course, it has been cooking for a long time. It had been cooking for a long time. Yeah,
It just needed the right time and the right place to show itself,
for sure. Yeah,
and once you start it, it's one of those things that you just can't turn off because, I mean, I can only speak for self. Chris Page was my character was a pothead. Chronic Chris Page was his name, and it was very very easy to play back in the day. Uh, and I always
Back in the
found
day,
I
yeah.
always found that it was, an extension of oneself makes for the better characters and the best character work because again, you're not having to try. You're not having to try too hard.
What's the
If
genuine
you
nature of who you are showing through?
correct,
right.
correct. One of the questions that I got asked not too long ago was, so what do I prefer? What do I like more about wrestling? And it's very simple. It's the authenticity. I want
Right.
the authentic characters. I don't. I can only suspend, disbelief or suspend belief for so long and for so far before I'm like, all right, now we're throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. But that's something that authenticity is what I look forward in character work. And if you've got that natural transition, like I said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When it clicks and it starts to click like you know it. So for you, at what point with the knockout character did you stop and say, now I'm onto something. I've got something here. I need to hone in on it a little bit more. What did that look like for you?
So you mean like during the thought process or after I started
Just
doing matches?
in the building of your transition to I'm going to wrestle to I am now knockout. Like how did that build work for you? Was it a transition thing or was it just did it click in and like, oh, this works. The fans like it, I'm gonna run. How did that build?
Like I think it was really a momentary thing. I don't think it was a gradual thing. Like we got that. Well, of course, we had that thought process. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, guys, I got these medals here. Maybe this would be interesting. Okay, I got these Muay Thai shirts. Maybe that would be interesting. And we built this character. But the moment that like the litmus test was really that show that we were doing in May of 2022, and it clicked straight away. People liked it. People they chanted to the song. They clapped to the song. They liked it. They thought I was a dickhead because I was a little bit of a dickhead. There
Aren't
was
we all?
I spit
Let's
in the
be
face.
fair.
A little bit, I guess.
I mean, a little bit's an understatement for me, so I'm good.
There was this moment. I think like this is a little bit of a weird thing maybe, but there was this moment. The show was divided by we're going to do an initial segment to build a little bit for the main event. So basically, the champion came out to the ring. He called me out, and I went to the curtain. Like as I said, people liked my song. They didn't really know if I was a heel or a face or whatever, but they kind of liked it. They looked at me. I looked like a dickhead, and I went into the ring. I didn't really talk, but there was this moment when I he he grabbed two drinks, two shots. He had there. He wanted to share a drink with me, and maybe you can guess what happened. He drank his. I drank mine. Put the glass down, and then I spit in his fucking face.
No.
And then I did it. I spit in his face.
That would solidify it right there.
That
Yeah.
solidified it. And if we're talking about a moment about a transition where I know it works, that was the moment where I knew this is gonna work, because people believe I'm a dickhead, and it's obvious why I'm the bad guy here, and it just works because of course that's been my life. Like
Oh, it sold the gimmick for sure. The fans instantaneously know, okay, that's the face, that's the heel. This is how it's gonna go. It's off. It's laid out on the table for them. There's no guesswork.
right, and this and that of course is a part of the wrestling process. You asked me about when I knew, okay, I'm the knockout now, but this really blends in together. I think that moment, that show in itself, I think fortunately worked really well to establish the gimmick right away, and people remembered it from the point on, and people still like it. I'm not a dickhead anymore. Not in wrestling Portugal. A little bit of in Wrestlefest, but I didn't really cheat though, so I don't know what you're talking about. Like you didn't really like me. I don't really know why.
Theory about cheating to win. It's fine.
Sorry, say it
Paige
again.
has a theory about cheating to win. It's fine.
Oh,
Did I cheat though? Come on.
no, you
Be fair.
didn't. You didn't. You beat my
Right?
boy clean. That's what Jesse Ventura used to always say: "Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat." That was that was the saying that I would throw out back when I was in the ring. I was a heel. Like it's just who I was, and to me, it's just so much easier to get booed than it is to get cheered because I don't have to work.
Yes.
I don't have to work to kiss your ass. I can just come out and tell you how much you suck and why you suck, and you're gonna hate me. And it's just so easy to be the villain in the story. And what really realistically with me is what made it so much better was when the hero conquered. Eventually
Right.
the hero conquers the villain. And with the storytelling and work, that's where I would get off on. Is eventually I'm going to put you over, and what's the crowd going to sound like? What's it? You're listening. I'm constantly listening. It's something Ricky Morton taught me back in late '99. Shut up and listen. That's what
Right.
literally all he was. Shut up and listen, and I did, and I learned a lot.
Yep. And for me, being a face most of my career, that was the thing. Is like I would spend the first half of an angle just getting my ass kicked, getting a chair cracked over my head at the table, or getting jumped by the heels coming out, or going back, or whatever. And that was the easiest part because then it's easy to get over as a face because it's just the underdog story. Eventually, you get a
Yeah.
win, and that's all it takes. That's all it takes is to get that win over the heel, and all that shit that they did to you makes it all worth it, and the crowd's behind you. So it was always easier for me to be a face because it was just getting beat up until it was time to win.
Yeah, and like in my thing, it's kind of the opposite of that. Like I really like being that guy that people not necessarily want to see lose, but like people are happy when you win against him. So like, because I think that also works really well with my character. Like you see, I don't want to compare myself to him, but like in Portuguese wrestling, I'm a little like I play a little bit of the role of maybe a little bit of Brock Lesnar. Of course, I'm not a fucking big guy, and Ronda Rousey as well. It's like that guy that can dominate and
gimmick.
right, yeah, that's it. Like the guy that can dominate and does dominate most of the times. And like at first, I was a full-on heel. I'm not a full-on heel anymore most of the time. But I'm never an underdog when I come to a match. Like I'm rarely the underdog when I go into a match.
No shit, I've seen you throw hands.
Right, and and I like, but I like that perception, like, and I like being in that spot because one of the best, one of the coolest reaction I've had was when I was beaten in a match, and I think you're going to see that match. It was in October 2023 was the first match back from. It was last year 2023, whatever. It was against this guy that's a babyface. And that can win matches, but you know that guy that you never really know, you're never really sure if he's gonna win, but you know that he can pull it off, right? Yeah, like you know he can pull it off, but maybe sometimes he doesn't, right?
He almost never does, but man, when he does, the pop is fucking huge.
There you go. But like, I don't even think that's the position because people know that the guy that I'm fighting is good. Like he's a good wrestler. Like if he wrestles well, he wins matches, but he might lose because he's a small guy, and he might, and it's like a 50-50 thing. And when you get to
the underdog DNA going on,
right, people love him. You can't turn that guy heel because it's like a Rey Mysterio of Portugal. Like doesn't wear a mask or whatever, but he's like that guy, and it's like a 50-50. You know he's good, but can he pull it off? And I'm the opposite of that. Like people like the perception of my character is like is the favorite to win most of the times, and
they hate about you.
They might. I mean, I feel like the perception right now is that they respect what I do, I think, and what Knockout does. So it's like they don't really hate me. I get good pops whenever I come in, but they know that I might win, and then I'm the favorite. And when that guy, I had that match, and it went the way it did, and maybe I was spoiling it a little bit for you. I didn't want to do that, but this was that kind of match, and we had that reaction, and people were crazy. They jumped when he won, and the kids hate me. That's one thing. Like the adults like me, the kids fucking hate me. They don't like me at all. They boo me. They call me fucking.
The adults can feel your reason for being arrogant, reason for being the way you are. The kids are like, no, but my heroes.
Right, that's it, and they hate me for it. And when the match was over, like they jumped off their seats and they were so happy that this guy won. And honestly, that's been one of my favorite reactions from any match that I've had. Like that's really the thing. Sometimes I get a lot of slack because I say that I'm going to lose the match, but the point is, I want to be that guy that people think is going to win, but they want kind of to lose, and they get that really big reaction when
that adrenaline
when they eventually lose. Yeah.
Yeah. We talk a lot about this on the channel too. You know, realistically, when it comes down to it, as a wrestler, when you come out to the ring and you have a match, there's only a couple of things that are important. Were the fans paying attention? Were they invested? Did they have a good time? Did the match come off the way it was supposed to? Did you tell the story you wanted to tell? Right. None of those things have anything to do with whether you won or lost. It's all about what you trade in the ring and
simple.
How the fans reacted to it.
Three keys to win. This is back in my day when I was in. Did I get a reaction? Did my opponent get a reaction? Did the match get a reaction? If the answers to those are yes, then you're a success. Doesn't matter about the wins or the losses. The crowd is the most important piece of that business. And now, if you got kids that are booing the shit out of you, the next time you do, this is what you do. You walk up to them at the rail and say, listen, it's not my fault. Tell that scrub to get good and then come talk to me. And you walk away.
I have to do that. Yeah, I have to do that.
That's all you got to do.
That's a good one.
It will solidify the children's hatred for sure.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. Your hero's not good enough. I can't help you.
You touched on something earlier, and really and truly, like, we know of the Portugal scene through Wrestlefest. You were talking about Wrestle Portugal a second or two ago.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for just a few minutes? Because I feel like let's put some light on the companies that you are currently or are doing work with. Because I really feel like with us only knowing Wrestlefest, like we just scratched the surface. So what can you tell us about Wrestle Portugal and some of the other organizations that are running down there?
Right. So Wrestling Portugal was really the first academy when I went to. That it's kind of up until recently, it's only been the only academy in Lisbon. And we also got a different one, which is the Portuguese Wrestling Association. Of course, we say it in Portuguese, and the acronym would be APW. That's down south in Algarve. That's where that academy is. And Wrestling Portugal the APW is the oldest one. It's been here for a long time, and Wrestling Portugal has been active since 2007. And that's the flyer that I got from that story. That's the flyer I got from, and that's where I went to train for myself. So we got those three promotions, one down south and two like in Lisbon. Wrestlefest is a little bit more all over the place. Like we try to go everywhere and make deals with mayors and shit and all of that with the cities to get the shows running. Wrestling Portugal is based just on that place. It's called Queluz Montabrão. It's a place in Lisbon, and it's based there, and it's always been there, and that's where I started training. And that's where I had my first few matches. It was down there, and we have really like guys that have been doing this for a long time. Like I said, 2007 it's when it opened. We're working with the guys that have been there since 2008, and they're training us, and we're doing all this to try to make it better. And Wrestling Portugal is actually the only like consistent promotion in terms of shows that we have, because they really make a point of having like 6 to 7 shows a year, 6, 7, whatever shows a year. It's like a month and a half separated from each other. So that's really the only like kind of seasonal wrestling promotion that we have. Wrestlefest, we kind of do the shows whenever we can, because of course the Wrestlefest one was last year, and that was the first Wrestlefest show ever. So it's not really established yet as a. I think it's established as a wrestling promotion, but there's just not the conditions to do the shows regularly. So we kind of do the shows whenever we can, and it usually goes from 3 months at a time. Whatever, we haven't had a show since March for Wrestlefest. We have had 3 for Wrestling Portugal, and that's actually my next fight. My next fight would be in 23rd of June, and that's for Wrestling Portugal, and that's a story. There's a story that's been building ever since. For this season, we do kind of seasonal, a little bit storylines and shit. But the story, that's kind of, I don't know, maybe you can compare it to Raw a little bit, because the production value is a little bit less. It's a self-funded show. We don't have sponsors or whatever. We don't have deals with the city halls and whatever. So you have to do all of that by ourselves. And the production is a little bit less, but the shows are, I would say, equally as good when it comes to wrestling. It's the same people wrestling, so it has to be the same thing.
Talent you guys have is incredible. So it definitely lends. If the roster is solid, then it lends to good shows for sure.
Right, and the big difference between Wrestling Portugal and Wrestlefest is that like Wrestlefest has a really good production value. And Wrestling Portugal is a little bit more of a consistent. People know that's going to happen, and they fill the venue in whenever they can, and that's going to be our next show. And APW is a little bit of Wrestlefest, but for Algarve. I mean, they're trying to do now better and better shows in terms of production quality, but at the same time, like their last show was in March. The previous one had been in maybe early December, I think, and the next one is going to be the 29th of June. So it's not really consistent as well. But we're trying to be, and we're trying to do more and more shows. We had in this month of March, the actual show that you watched, the Wrestlefest number 2, that was the first of 3, and that was a really good experience. We had those show in the 9th, the 17th, and the 24th. I loved it. Never happened before to me. having shows like back to back to back in the same month. That was the first time that we had, and it was for 3 different promotions. First Wrestlefest, then APW, then Wrestling Portugal, and yeah, that's really how the scene is right now. That's why we're saying we're growing. We don't do a lot of shows, unfortunately. We try to, we do the best we can, but people seem to be interested and people seem to like it. So we can only hope for the future that we hopefully do more than that.
Well, you guys keep doing the quality over quantity, you'll get the seats filled for sure.
It's like planting that seed and watering it. Eventually, that motherfucker's gonna grow, and when it does, like it seems
like it's doing it now.
Right, that's where I was going. Is it absolutely is doing it now? So I really feel like that you guys are on the cusp of breaking out and breaking out in a pretty big way. If I know that we rag about production not cost, but production of shows, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can to get some lights and you have the in-ring product to counterbalance the production stuff, that's just as big of a win as it is putting on a great show with great lighting and the over-the-top entrances, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, it's about the in-ring work. Ultimately, if that's top notch, it's going to draw Joe Schmo in to buy another ticket. John, you said that earlier in the program, and from what I've seen, again, it's been limited because we've had to pull back. Only because we knew that we had Nelson, we knew that we had Jude.
Yeah, we would dive that rabbit hole real deep, but we've got stuff coming up for it, so we want to hold off.
I honestly was scared that when I hit you up, it had to have been like last week again. Like it's been 4 or 5 weeks, and I didn't realize it had been that long since we shared a DM. But I went back and I looked, and I bet this guy thought I blew him the fuck off, and I was like, my message to you was, well, we're finally here. Because we had talked about this. It seems like 3 months ago to get this thing rolling and get this thing looking and moving and shaking. And John and I are both excited to talk to you and talk to Nelson and a couple other guys and gals that you got down there in the area.
The whole market that you guys have is a new experience for us. We're definitely interested in that.
Right?
Because it's going to pop. It's going to pop.
Hopefully.
There's no hopefully.
Please, Paul. Please, God.
If the steady trend continues, and you've already told us that your houses are up, right? Post-COVID, the houses are up.
Yes, for sure.
The talent level is there. There's no denying that. And for those out on the channel, if you're watching this, like we've dropped 4 or 5 Apollo's matches alone this past week. If you want to go and check out the video on demands, they're there. Like not just on our page, but Wrestlefest's page. And I'm going to look up some of the other pages that you're referring to because I want to see more. I want to see what else is out there. And I truly think that. The way that content is consumed nowadays with YouTube and streaming, et cetera, et cetera. If you guys haven't already, look into getting everything on YouTube. It's the easiest way to get your shit out there, and whether it's I know that's how we came across WrestleFest show. I don't know if there's any other YouTube pages for the other companies that you're talking about, but I'm gonna look. And if there's not, then that's something you need to take back to them and be like, hey, listen, if we're doing A, B, and C, it takes no time to put something up and we can get our product out there. Because if we stumbled across you and fell into the rabbit hole of Portugal Wrestling, somebody else will too. It's just a matter of time, right?
Hopefully everybody in our audience.
Hopefully, yeah. please check us all out.
I see you guys doing the same things that were the build-up for like Riot City and the Adelaide market and what's going on in Australia. You guys have the right groundwork going, and like they had that same thing where there was disparate companies working their own shows, doing their own stuff. But when they started doing a network of shows and trading rosters and having names travel and doing those kinds of things, and their shows became consistent, they blew up on the world stage. And you guys are in that grow phase right now doing the exact same thing. So it's not a matter, like we say this a lot, but it's not a matter of if, it's when. And we saw you guys when you're growing. We can recognize that this is the phase that you're in, and we know that it's coming. We just don't know when that pop is. Anything that we can put out there and any of our fans that can go and share the product makes that happen even faster.
Thanks, guys. Like, I really appreciate it. I didn't really know about the right thing, but I'm really, that warms my heart a little bit that you think we are on that on that trajectory and on that process. Because like I don't want to jinx it because I don't say it a lot, but
Yeah, no,
things are really looking up. Like it's never been this good before, and I'm happy with what we're doing right now, and people seem excited to better the product in any way that they can. Maybe try and do more shows, even if of course it's not a waste of time, but of course you spend your time, you spend your money, and you don't really get anything back. But but people seem excited. People seem to love it. Like there was a lot of, as I said in the beginning, those tribalisms that they've been taken care of. Like there isn't really, like, we're all friends. We're all at the same shows together. We all do all this together, and it's a really good time right now. I couldn't have been more fortunate to come into Portuguese wrestling in a better time than I have.
Well, it's
right now.
it's like this with all of you guys. You all of you and girls. I'm not just trying to limit it to the guys and gals. All of you have this opportunity to help build something, and it's
Right.
just like John and I can rationalize it down like with our channel, right? Like we're building a market and building an audience every week. You guys are doing the same thing, just with a wrestling company, right? So it's easy
Right.
to sit down and say, all right, we're trying to build the same kind of concept, the same kind of deal. You guys have a big opportunity in front of you, big opportunity, because the success or failure of Portuguese wrestling, not to put any pressure on you guys, it's with this crew that is laying the foundation for what is to come next. And I'm telling you, if it was not worth our time, I would have said, "Get good, scrub. Call me later." Like it's just,
Right.
but it's
Right.
not. It's such a sigh of relief and a breath of fresh air when we put on a show at random and are entertained by it, not just by one piece of it, by every
Right.
piece of it, every section of every segment of it. So it's gonna take work, but if you're there to
Of
put
course.
the work in, then you will reap the rewards off of it. And it's insane to me that there's not more eyes on your area and the work that you guys are putting in down there, because like I said, it's good stuff, and we're not just blowing smoke up your ass because you're on the show. Like I said, if there was something that was terrible or stuck out at us, we'd probably talk about that too. But there's nothing that
Right.
that was there in that 2.5 2 hours that we saw. And as of this recording, to peel the curtain back, we haven't seen WrestleFest 1 just yet. We've got that show coming up with Nelson. It's already aired if you're watching this
I
interview.
can't wait.
So we don't know what we're going to see. If WrestleFest
Right.
2 was where that was, right, and that's the expectation, and that's the bar, is WrestleFest 1 going to live up to it? We don't know. But
Uh, uh,
go ahead.
I think you're going to be
Really,
pleasantly
I'm more
surprised
worried
as
about
well.
WrestleFest 3.
You are? Me too. I'm in the main event again. Fuck. I'm worried about it now. It's only it's a month
Well,
from now.
knowing you're in the main event gives me high hopes for the product, and
Oh,
that
shit.
means that we'll have something to look forward to.
Oh shit. Oh, I fucked up. You just said it.
Yeah, well, if you screw up now, I'm gonna look right at the camera and say, "Get good, scrub," and call me back.
Fuck. Did you get good? Nah, man, I'm not gonna screw up.
Nah, you've got it, man. You guys know what you're doing down there, and then that's ultimately where we're getting at. Is the product is brought us together, and by us, we wouldn't be having this conversation if we didn't come across it and we didn't see what you guys are up to. All that being said, your career has not been like it's. I mean, you've only been involved in the business for like 6 7 years now, and you've been wrestling full time for 2. Give me some of your
Yeah.
favorite moments so far within your career that are your kind of flagship moments.
And not just matches either, like things in the locker room, how stories built, whatever was important to you. What are the highlights of your career so far? Things that you look at and are like, nope, that was a moment.
So there are these highlights, and the first one, definitely my first match, for sure. It was a very lucky spot. I'm very fortunate to have had that spot. That was a great highlight for me. I loved it. Another great moment was when we realized that we're going to continue with the seasons. So that was my second match. We had a rumble or whatever, and that's when I realized we were going to continue with the season. That was really important as well. Um, another really great one was 1 year later, in a show we called Final Battle. I got to wrestle again for the national championship. That would be our world championship in Portugal.
Mhm.
I got to wrestle for that again in a 4-way. Um, this was that was a great moment. That was kind of the moment where I kind of dropped the really bad heel or cheater part of my character and was just like someone people respected. There were some learning moments as well. I've had one or two dumpster fire matches. One of them was early on in like my second or third match that really stands out as a maybe like a turning point as to maybe I was getting a little arrogant at the time as to what I was as to what I was doing because things were the matches that I had were good. Up until then, maybe I was getting a little bit too big for my britches. So yeah,
that need those moments of humility sometimes.
Yeah, that was definitely a big moment, and that was a tough time for sure. But it stands out as an highlight because it was really a good learning experience for me and for my opponent. We were both in the same position, and we had guys that believed in us, and one guy that believed in us especially, and he coached us through that moment, and we came out on top at the end, and that was a really great learning experience. And there are more highlights, man. Like the first Wrestlefest show was really like a shock to me because it was Wrestlefest 1. You're gonna see it. I was in it too, not in the main event, but I was in a great match. And it was a really big shock and a really big difference from what we had until now because we had an actually really well produced show. He had Titantrons, all the smoke and mirrors, all of that we didn't have before. That was a really great thing. That was also in a time that I'm not going to get into it because it's behind the scenes stuff. But we got really united to do that show. That was really the time when we had that tribalism like taken care of for sure, once and for all. All of us came together to put that show on, and that's a really important show for that reason as well. Like you're gonna find out about it now. But that was all wrestlers from all the promotions in the country for sure on that show. And that was a really great moment. And then there's more highlights, but these are really the important ones. I really important to highlight going out for the first time. I've been to Spain to wrestle in Spain. We have a seminar with Chris Ridgway. Was great. That was my first seminar. That was great. We had a match of Portuguese team versus Spanish team, of course. We were the bad guys. They hated our guts. It was fucking great. That was the first time I went out. Then I went to Trend 7 as well, again in Spain, in Lucha Libre Barcelona. We had that seminar then, and we had the match again. That was great. And then, of course, I went to Ireland, and I went to Ireland in OTT in October 2023, and I hope to go there again because that was when I realized, damn, I went to Spain, and I feel like we were pretty level with the people there in Spain. But when I went to Ireland, that's when it really hit me in the face that, damn, I got a whole fucking lot to learn about this.
A whole other tier up here somewhere.
Dude, there's levels to this, and you ain't on it, man. I really wasn't, and that was not a slap in the face because I really enjoyed that moment. I won't call it a slap in the face, but it was like a reality check. That was really important for me as well. Like I was maybe underestimating a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure that's the term, but it really shocked me and really got me excited about the things that I want to do in wrestling, and that's really the objective as well. Like I want to be able to. I'm currently taking my master's degree. I want to finish that, and then I want to have a solid foundation to be able to go to other places and to like Italy, Ireland, France, Germany, maybe even the United States one day, and be able to get this wrestling thing going and be like a major part of my life for many years to come.
What are you getting a master's in?
Electrical engineering.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're gonna be building light rigs.
Kind of. I'm more into. I call it electrical engineering, but my thing is really computers a little bit and machine learning and AI and whatever.
There's a lot of crossover for that. What do you think the opportunity? Well, and this is something that I ask a lot of guys when they come on the show. Is like in the position that the industry's in right now, we're seeing an uptick in fan base. We're seeing an uptick in numbers of shows and numbers of companies, in the roster numbers. Like we're seeing the indies really grow. all
Right.
over the world, every venue, everywhere. The indies are at a level that they've never been at before. With all of the things that you're learning in college and the stuff that you do on the side, what do you think our opportunity is to increase the not just the production but the show levels for the future of indies? What can we do at the indie level to make the shows seem like they're already the mainstream?
Oh, that's a tough question because you can really apply AI to a lot of stuff. Like, but there's the real potential of AI is really of what I'm doing. Kind of, I'm working on a branch of AI. But the really big potential is just shortening the length of time that you can do a task for and just automating it in a way. So that's really that there's really many ways to find and many applications that you probably can do with AI. That's not taking your job or automating the whole process, but if you can apply it in a way, maybe doing some songs, maybe doing, I don't know, some commentary, some scripting, some whatever, you can really apply that to make things faster and more easily producible. You've seen music produced by AI in a matter of hours, maybe even minutes, and you can see that really being done like really easily, and that's really what AI can do, and that's one of the things that AI can do, just speed up the process, and that of course will take a little bit of a load off your shoulders, and then you can probably start thinking about different things and putting on shows a little bit more regularly, maybe.
Yeah, to make it
But-
easier for one engineer to do a lot of the production.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Because you have basically you have an automated worker for you, so that's kind of it. Yeah.
I have a quick question for you, and then John, I'm gonna circle it around to you. We'll get ready to tie a bow on this here shortly. If it comes down to it, who in Portugal, and I'll tell you when you give me the answer to this question, I'll tell you why I ask it. Who in Portugal,
Right.
if we were to watch some people, and you were to recommend some people, who should we be watching down in your scene and in your neck of the woods that you think have got the potential, or just in general that are tremendous fucking athletes when they get in the ring?
All right. So this I don't want to be tough on my peers, right? Because
And if you forget people, we put him on the spot. Everybody, he didn't have.
I
his
put it
plan
there.
out.
You
We just
definitely
told him
put me on the
Yeah,
spot.
we put him on the spot, so don't be mad at him.
So, but if I had to say one guy that's doing the work and better than any of us right now, probably, and that's a really good chance to do some great things in wrestling, it would be someone called Golden Boy Santos. I don't know if you heard of him. He's recently been. I've been to OTT with him. He's the guy that brought me to OTT, and I've had a match with him. It was probably the best match that I've had. I think by leaps and bounds the best match that I've had. And he went to OTT. He's a regular there now. He's about to be a regular in Rev Pro in the English scene. And
Keep an eye on Rev Pro.
Yeah,
yeah,
I've got friends in Rev Pro. The
You
OJ the OJMO is a friend of the channel, Mr. Michael Oku. Yeah, he's,
oh, there you go. Oh, I've been with the seminar with Michael Oku as well. I show I think with Michael Oku in LLB as well.
uh,
I mean, he doesn't really remember me, but I've been there. Yeah.
we're definitely making friends over in the UK. No doubt about it.
But if there's one guy that would be it, Golden Boy Santos. We have some potential guys as well. We have a really good youngster. Is Damian. He's the guy from the ladder match that I referenced earlier, and he's kind of and he's kind of that guy that people kind of gravitate towards him, and it's that really thing that you can't really explain, but people just like him for who he is.
So talented and so young. That's
Right.
the draw. It's like,
Right.
wow, look at what that kid's doing right now.
But I like it's kind of I can't really explain it, to be honest, because it's just the way he is. People just gravitate towards him. People like him, and if you have him on the show, you love talking to him. I think I would say, and this is everywhere. So that he does also have a potential to do some great things. He's not a huge guy, so that's probably his biggest deterrent, I guess. Santos is huge. He's like
deterrent. Yeah, I don't find it being a deterrent.
maybe not anymore.
Yeah.
But like when you look at
the industry's changed.
yeah, but when you look at me, when you look at him, and then you look at Santos is like 2 meters tall, and you guys would say like 6 foot something. He's like 6'4", I think, 200 and whatever, 40 pounds or whatever, and of solid muscle, and you just look at him like, okay, he's a wrestler. He's like the only Portuguese wrestler you can say, okay, he's a wrestler, right?
He fits
And
the old school ideal.
for sure, yeah, and he's good at it. I would say. Maybe some people would disagree. I'm not sure about that. He is the way he is, but yeah, if there's that's probably the biggest guy right now doing that thing.
So,
And I really hope he comes back to Portugal because I need to beat his ass because he beat my ass in the last match.
well, you
And I will beat his ass. He's got a championship that he's not defending, and there's a good reason.
That's a challenge out there on the channel. If you're hearing it, he wants a piece and he wants a shot at that belt.
Yeah, I want that belt. I want to defend that belt because you're okay. That's true. You're good. You're better than all of us right now, but it's not gonna be for long. I want a piece of that. I want to bring that belt back, that beautiful belt back. I want to get it, and you're gonna get these fucking hands if you get on here. Yeah, I want that rematch.
here's why I ask you that. When you gave me 2 names at that point, but you actually gave me about 10, because when I pull matches with those cats, they got to have opponents. And the beautiful thing about independent wrestling is when you stumble across good stuff, and we do this, like I said, we do this with everybody that comes on the show, so eventually our secret's going to get out. You expose us to 10 people that we were not exposed to prior to. So it keeps us moving in a different direction of independent wrestlers around the world, not just focused in one central place like the United States as an example. It gives us the opportunity to sit down and look at everyone else's body of work all around the world and the opponents that they're in there with. So you never know where the rabbit hole is going to take you, essentially, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll watch matches with Golden Boy, and he might be in there with 5 or 6 different talents, and 3 of those might really stand out as amazing workers. So now we go look at them. And
I think they
also
will
in the ring with other talents who are also amazing workers. And now we've got this spider web of superstars that we're looking at from your area. And it isn't just the 1 guy or 2 guys or 3 guys that you listed. It's all of their body of work and the people that they've been in the ring with too.
Right, and the way you mentioned Golden Boy and the matches that he's had matches with really good opponents. You're gonna see Wrestlefest 1. You're gonna see like a really good prospect that if I don't know where his mind is at right now. I don't know if he wants to continue pursuing it, but if he wanted to, it could really do it because he's a great wrestler and a fucking great worker. His name is Leo Rossi.
Okay,
and that's one of the guys. He had a good match with a small life flyer. That's also a really that kick and movement. That kick can move in the ring, and he gets it. Like he knows the positioning. He's fluid. He's probably the most fluid guy, I'd say. The smoothest guy in the ring that we have. He's called Ricky Boy. And then he's had a match. Yeah, Ricky Boy. Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, there you go. That's easy enough to remember. Yeah. Sorry. Oh yeah, he was. He was in chat.
Yep, he was in our chat.
Yeah.
I imagine that he'll be in the chat on the 8th.
Hopefully, yeah. And working with him is great because, as I said, is the way he moves in the ring, like it's really smooth. It's really great for working, and the stories told are great. I think you're probably going to see a match with him as well. If you want to do the highlight. Mm-hmm. And then another one would be probably. I mean, there's more. There's Rafael Pedres. He's one of the guys that you watched as well. It was the match before mine. And he's a smaller guy. He's great. He's awesome. On the Wrestlefest number 2 show, the team with Damião, this was the hardcore match. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The hardcore match was crazy.
Right. So the guy that took the thumbtacks, I don't know if you remember that, but that's Damião. That's him.
Okay.
And his teammate, Mestre, he's great too. And he's got the build. He's got the wrestler build, like the fucking hunk ass guy. He's not really that tall. He's like my height.
Came off like
a great tag
the
team.
New school and the old school ideals all in one tag team. Yeah, it definitely good synergy.
So you got a couple of guys there. I don't want to be in trouble with any of them for not mentioning them. But
they can send their hate tweets at Fireside.
Fuck it up. Right. You got a problem getting the ring with me, motherfucker.
I'll sick John on him and just say, all right. He said, I don't need a lawyer or anything like that. I got a John Cable. He'll handle all that for me. I don't know.
For sure. But yeah, you got a lot of guys that you can watch, and hopefully can bring some good stuff not only to Portugal but to the wrestling scene in general. That's the dream.
That's exactly why we do these shows, man. It's a way for us to sit down and talk to you and get to know a little bit about you. You get to know a little bit about us, and then we get to expose ourselves to the talent that you're working with and that you're constantly traveling with and putting on shows with. It's just it's the rabbit hole, man, of independent
Yeah.
wrestling. You go down it and you can take it as far as you want to take it. And in our case, we just dove in that motherfucker head first and haven't stopped. We're still trembling down the rabbit hole because there's so much happening. John, I know that you usually end things with a solid question. I'm gonna throw it over to you, and then we'll get ready to tie a bow on this one.
Earlier, you were talking about the companies and how it works, or like how you guys work around in the area and how you guys are sharing rosters and what's going on. One of the things that you mentioned a couple of times in this show was that the people behind the training facilities, even when you weren't in the ring, were constantly coming up with ways to hone your skills, even if it wasn't available to do it in a venue.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think? I'm trying to figure out how to even word this. I know how important it is to
Hard
feel
questions come.
like people are believing in you, right?
Right.
What do you think the impact of that was on the rosters, and how do you think that has affected the success after the pandemic? Like, do you think that that's a large part of it, or do you think it's more of other things? And on
That's
top of that,
yeah.
the pandemic crushed a lot of other industries. And do you
Right.
think that that growth after the pandemic is part of, like, there isn't a theater experience, there isn't a live venue function, there isn't a thing, like, did it change the way Portuguese people functioned? And is that a factor in the growth of the industry after COVID? I guess it's a lot of things, like, about the growth afterwards. And where do you think that really comes from and how it builds here?
So there's a couple of points to this question. You've asked about the belief that our trainers had in us, and that's absolutely like most of the cake, like if not the whole cake. Like that was really heartwarming for us as well, and really important that they believed in us to do that and to put on a show with guys that had never had matches. Like off the roster, had never had one match ever. Even me, like I had that dark match, but that was it. And we had these. Well, our opponents had matches, but not us. And that was the first experience. And it was a really big risk, but they believed in us, and I can't thank them enough for that. Because if that hadn't happened, I don't think we'd be here talking right now. And that was the really important. And of course, you mentioned the pandemic. I mean, there was really that lack of anything to do. And when as soon as wrestling could come on again, it did. People watched it that never really before in Portugal, and it's not a big thing. I'm not going to pretend that we're a big thing right now, but people still don't know that there's wrestling. And I'm at the gym sometimes. Sometimes I wear my wrestling shirt just so I can get some names to talk about wrestling to them, because I like doing that. And usually people are surprised. I didn't know there was a wrestling, but that pandemic for kind of like a blessing in disguise. I don't know if the paradigm would have shifted if that hadn't happened. So I guess that was an important part. I don't want to call it a good part of whatever time that was, but for sure that
not that it was great for anyone, but it had
it wasn't, because it wasn't
consequences that we didn't expect.
Because it wasn't. But as you said, that those consequences, I can't really tie them. It was a really unique time, and maybe it boosted again a little bit of wrestling after the pandemic, which is, for all the bad it was, I guess you can take that away from it. But those two factors, the maybe the pandemic a little bit, and then the belief of our trainers and coaches and producers that they have in us, which they still believe in us 100%, and we believe in them to coach us through all of this. And that's the most important part of it, and that's really what makes me the happiest that we have here in Portugal, because people genuinely, push for each other and push to be trying to be better every single time, and we want to do it, and you can see it. And I couldn't be happier to be part of this scene right now.
Well, let me just tell you, the scene's going to be blowing up. It's going to pop. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We are thrilled that we stumbled across Wrestlefest and the crop of talent that we have come across since then. Forever grateful for the time that you were giving us this evening to sit down and do this
Yeah,
show.
pleasure's all mine.
It's been it's been fun. It's been informative. I enjoy coming out of shows learning something more than I did going in, and I have definitely feel like that's a thing here. And here's something that I want to leave you with, Paulo. And this is a scary thought. Okay, you guys,
Okay.
and this is for you specifically because you are so young. You're 24, 25. If I'm not, is that right? 25 or
Yes,
24?
I'm 24. Yeah, just turned
20,
24.
24. You've been in the business
Yeah.
for 7 years right now. If you're, and again, this isn't a smoke blowing up your ass statement, more so than it is true. If you're as good as you are right now, think about how good you're going to be in the next 5 years. You're not even scratching the prime of your career at that point yet. So you have a lot of positive things going for you. If the market down there can pop and you get more reps in, not just for you, but for the market down there in general, it's nothing but a positive thing. And it means nothing but good things for professional wrestling. And we say this again, it has a way of bringing people together. Wrestlefest has brought us together. I definitely want to circle back around at some point and let's do another show. Let's do a catch up and see how you're doing, see how things are going. We have the live stream platform. You're more than welcome to come on and do a show with us there too if you want to. It's up to you. But I say all that to say is in the next 5 years, like if you keep on the grind and you keep doing what you're doing, there's no reason why. And not just you, the guys down there that are the main event scene and that are putting the work in. There's no reason why you guys can't build a dynasty down there and get Portugal wrestling more mainstream and get it in front of more people on an international level. And that's going to be a huge win for you guys. So, again, keep up what you guys are doing. I'm stoked to sit down and watch WrestleFest 3 when it comes out. Now that I know that you're in the main event, I'm going to boo the shit out of you just because. And I will have fun with the show when we get a chance to sit down and watch it, man. You got anything you want to say to our viewers, Mr. Cruz, before we get ready to close it out?
Hey guys, thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. I've had a blast. This is really new for me. I don't think that I've mentioned it yet. Of course, I'm kidding. I loved it. That's a scary thought that you just put on me. I try not to think about that a lot. I like to enjoy the process.
Left him with an existential crisis. For fuck's sake.
But you didn't. Like I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, and I'll keep putting the work as best I can and enjoying the process because that's what I've come to find out that all my years of training in kickboxing and wrestling now, that if you're enjoying this process and building yourself and as that's the best way to be happy with what you're doing, and that's what I try to think about, not the future in that, not how am I going to be, where am I going to be at. I'm thinking about right now and what I can do that's best for me and for the wrestling scene, and just enjoying the process. And I'm happy to say that I'm enjoying it a lot. So hopefully you guys come and join the ride.
Well, if you have made it this far, guys and gals, right above his head at knockout.wp over on Instagram. So go ahead and give that a follow. Independent
Please do that.
wrestling is what brings us together. And it's one of those situations where even if it's just a follow, guys, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you really and truly, if you see the post, like them, you'll be surprised to see what the algorithms do for guys just like Paulo, who are out there busting their ass on the independent scene, trying to make a name for themselves and making not just for themselves but for their country as well. It is the easiest way to show support. If you do not know or you're not able to buy merchandise or any of that nature, maybe you know somebody who can. Share the shit. It's pretty simple. John, you go ahead and tie a bow on us and let's get out of here for this episode.
Well, guys, I think what they've got going on over in Portugal realistically stems from trainers and coaches and fed heads who believe in the product and have a passion for the wrestling just like the roster does. And we've seen this time and time again with the matches that we've seen and the interactions that we've had with the rosters over there. These guys love the business. And I think that is really where the success in Portugal for all of them is really stemming from, the belief in the product and the belief in each other and the willingness to put in the work. And it shows in every bit of their show. The production is clean. The moves are great. They're putting in the work and the effort. Is it flawless? No. Is any show flawless? Fuck no. We all have our problems, but it's in the recovery and the growth and the willingness to put ourselves out there that we actually find our successes. And these guys are doing it in spades. If you can't help them, your friend maybe does, and maybe they don't know that they're out there, and your share, your like, your comment on their feed, their socials, their YouTube channels can be the thing that shows your friend what else is out there. So don't be afraid to share it out. Maybe your friends will enjoy it too, just like we have in stumbling down the rabbit hole. If you guys have not done so already, go down below, go up above, follow all the links, drop those savage elbows right there on the ding bell so you never miss a beat of what we've got going on behind the curtain right here at CCP Podcasting. We've got new shows, new ideas, and new guests constantly coming down the pipeline. So if you have not got behind the curtain with us, get your early drops in over there. Do that right now. You guys follow all of the Portugal stuff, all the links below. We'll get you to an exciting new world of wrestling in another country that you've never seen before. Maybe you have. Maybe you got here because you love it too. You can share those moments with us. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we love each and every one of your faces, and we'll see you again next time.